My name is Lana, and I'm taking a walk. So I thought I'd take you with me. I just ran into my neighbor, and I still run into neighbors who, they recognize that my poor buddy is no longer with me. And so it's always kind of a sad thing. But he's also a veteran, and so we were having a conversation around the way the world is right now, which is really, really crazy, because I was just sharing how back when I was active duty and I was stationed in Belgium, hello, it was drilled into us as military. It's your duty, it's your service, your obligation, you need to vote. Send in your absentee ballot. Okay. And we did, and I did. And it was believed that every vote counted. But back in that time frame when I was stationed in Belgium, we were carrying our mail. We had to pick it up and we had to drop it off. And my absentee ballot, and I was a Florida absentee, that was the year of the hanging Chad, was returned to me not just once, but twice. And I made a video about this a while back. Back when we were having our last major election. 2.5 years ago, was that? I don't know, I'm losing track of time these days. So long story short, what were they doing? They were pushing absentee ballots, and they still are. But see, when I came back to the US and I went to go check in to vote, I was told that my registration was expired, so I had to re-register, even though, just because, you know, I hadn't voted in a couple elections. And so I did, but they said, oh, well, it's not going to be effective in time for the next election, which I thought was absurd too, because I'm coming from an IT background. I said, you got to tell me that in 2 weeks, when the real election is supposed to happen, that my registration won't be effective still because I have to wait because you don't have your systems up to date? Whatever. Anyway, at that particular moment in time, I said, well, what's the story with absentee ballots anyway? Because I said, you know, I told them the story about how my absentee ballot was returned to me twice. And that was in 2000, I believe. And they said to me, oh, we don't count those unless we need them. And I looked at her, I said, excuse me? All my career, I was told every vote counts. How can you tell a military person that you need to vote, it's your duty to vote, but yet later down the road, the truth is that it doesn't count? Because every vote counts, you're told, but that's not the truth. Because what she told me was they only use absentee ballots when they think they need them. So let that sink in for a moment. Because if you hadn't noticed over these past several years, there's been a whole lot of confusion and a lot of pushing for absentee votes, for absentee ballots. So what does that say on top of all the other shit that's come to surface? But it is what it is. Again, interestingly enough, I really appreciated Julia's video earlier today with Neil talking about 𝐕𝐞𝐭𝐞𝐫, the mind virus. And if you don't know about this, you should do a little research, because it's been known in indigenous cultures about the mind virus. And I remember I was living in Italy at the time when I first heard about it, and I thought, well, that makes sense. And I'm like, okay, neighbors are all around, we're waving. And I'm like, that makes sense to me. It's just like anything though, you know, we call things by different names. So some people call it, you know, disease of the mind. Watch out, honey. Mindset is everything. All of this stuff. Like, how you doing, Rob? Great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm liking the beard. 𝐕𝐤𝐻𝐻, it's basically a hijacking of the mind, and that's essentially how I've always interpreted it. That is why I am such a huge proponent and advocate of meditation, of mindfulness practice, because you need to know thyself so well that nothing penetrates, nothing makes you question yourself. And most people, they question themselves all the time. They don't trust themselves, and then they're distrusting of those around them. Hence why they question others. Where did you get that information? How do you know that's true? Because they can't tap into their inner guidance system. When you're right in the mind, you're right in the body. You feel, you trust your instincts, your gut. You trust your gnosis, your knowing. Gnosis, know thyself, G-N-O-W. It takes choosing, it takes dedication, devotion. It's choosing you in the end. So, you know, it's a lifelong practice, and there is no stopping. I have been, from the moment I was born, I'm like a sponge. I'm on a mission. I'm a lifelong journeyer. I'm a lifelong researcher. I was born of a triple Sag mom, you know, the Sagittarian, the Sator. Sorry, it's a lot of noise from the traffic. This is the only thing that sucks at this time, is how much traffic this road gets. Maybe I'll get to cross the street soon. It's crazy. We need a crosswalk here. Hi, Valley. The Centaur has the arching, you know, it's all about placing your target on the bullseye, always aiming. And so it's no surprise. My mom was always a big researcher, searching, seeking the truth. I know, our skies are crazy today. And then we have the sun setting behind me. And this is why I live here. So, and then on top of it, my dad's a Sag too. There's a lot of fire right behind Leo. So, you know, I grew up in libraries. My mom taught us how to research. She taught us to always question everything. Question everything you think you know, and question everything you don't know. Question what other people tell you. And then it's always been so fascinating and hilarious to me, the people that were like, when you ask them a question, they don't like to be questioned because they feel like it's a physical threat. They literally go into trauma stress response, which is that I need to defend, even though they don't know. That's the irony. They feel like they're right. They have to defend that BS, that belief system, when the truth is they have no clue either. Why can't people just admit, I'm not sure. I don't have the answers. You know, back in the day, customer service, you would ask a question and, you know, the customer's always right. So these days, you ask a question or you call up to complain, or, you know, I say complain, but you're essentially criticizing and critiquing and giving feedback of what you believe is poor service, and you know you deserve better. And your response from the customer service agents is, well, you're the only one who's complaining. It's like, what? Where did you get that script? Because that's what they're teaching them. There's more of a passive aggressivity nowadays. In fact, the most recent situation that I was encountering with the customer service situation with my internet, or was it my phone? I don't know, it was one of those. And I was like, are you kidding? She said, she basically tried to turn it around on me. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute here. I think we need to speak to I want to talk to your manager or someone higher up. Well, they're not going to be able to do much more than what I'm able to do for you. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I didn't ask you that. And then the fact that they're telling people to say that kind of stuff on the phone to you, like, is just unbelievable. It's mind-boggling to me. It's like, okay, so that's supposed to be an acceptable response, that you're seeking a solution that, you know, resonates and aligns with you, you're actually calling to resolve, and you're taking your time, because God knows we all spend at least an hour to get anybody on the phone these days, because nobody wants to work, and it's already challenging to find people who know how to work in customer service. So when you do finally get someone on the phone and they proceed to gaslight you with, well, they're not going to be able to do much more for you than I'm able to do. It's like, I didn't ask you that. I don't feel that we're communicating effectively or satisfactorily to any degree of solution. So I didn't ask for your feedback on that. I just asked to speak to somebody else who may be able to help me better than you're able to respond in this moment. So just pay attention, because they're getting, this is gonna be a huge theme. A week ago on the new moon, I was out with a girlfriend. I'm sorry, I hope the wind's not that bad. It is windy today. And I was in a small ceremony with my girlfriend, and I said, you know what came up, and it's going to be a huge theme for the collective, is this whole trust. They're going to try to get people to distrust each other to the point where, and again, I'm going to say this goes back to self-trust. When you know yourself so well, you cannot be shaken. You have to be resilient. You have to have a strong nervous system. You have to be stoic, immovable, like the redwood, because they're truly going to try to hijack with this 𝐕𝐞𝐭𝐞𝐬, this mind virus, to the point where if you don't trust yourself, you're not going to trust others around you, because you won't know how to tap into that inner gnosis, that knowing within you that tells you what aligns. You know, we get the gut feeling, we get that sensation within when we're like, I know this is the truth in this moment because that's what I feel. So this trust issue is going to come out because people who don't trust themselves aren't going to work. They're not going to operate in a trustworthy fashion because they're operating out of fear. When people operate out of fear, when you're emotional, you become irrational. And so that's how they hijack you. That's those lower vibrations, and they use the infiltration. The vibration that being lower in an individual makes you a prey to the predator. And so when you're not set and knowing in yourself, and this is why I promote breath work, meditation, mindfulness practices, move your body, get out in nature. Like if you're literally going out of your mind, you need to get back in your body. You need to take a walk. Take deep breaths. Go hug a tree. Open your heart. In about an hour or so, hour and a half, I'm uploading my latest Untethered Soul teaching reading. And that one is The Secrets of the Spiritual Heart. And again, it's always going to be about keeping that heart open. Because if you don't have an open heart, you'll be easier to penetrate. Yeah. But you know, the only reason people act in from those places of knowing it all is because they don't know it at all. That they are in such a fear response. That's the only reason people act that way. Is when they're fearful, they're giving the appearance, they're playing a role to assume the position of authority. It's just like Power versus Force, like David R. Hawkins' book. It's there's a book by, if you haven't read it, fabulous. It will change your vibration, and it will really open up your mindset into the levels of consciousness and vibration and all that, the frequencies, and where kinesiology really stems from. Hi, Mish. So in Power versus Force, the hidden determinants of human behavior, I believe, is the subtitle. It's a nice day, that's why you hear all the motorcycles in the background. So in this book, David Hawkins is pointing out how, let me see something. Let's see if that. he's pointing out how power is innate in each and every one of us. That's our natural core being, is our power. And actually that would equate to the inner energy from the other reading the other day. That inner wellspring of energy that we all have access to. Hey, James. Good to see you. That inner power that we all have within us, that is our birthright, that doesn't require external forces. It just takes a tapping into and reclaiming of. Essentially is what puts all these forces in fear. When it doesn't come natural, then you know you're forcing it. And what isn't natural always comes to light, right? This is dark and light. This is shadow work, right? This is doing the work and recognizing anybody who is trying to force anything isn't in their innate natural power. They're acting out of fear. Whereas when you're in your power, you're coming from a place of love. That's your light. So again, this is duality. It is the humbling of always checking in yourself. Am I coming from a place of fear, lack, or am I coming from a place of love, expansiveness, right? It's contraction, expansion. We contract when we're in fear, we expand when we're out of love. And again, it's the head over the heart over the head. The heart will never lead you astray. It's the head that gets you in the way, gets you in trouble. So the head, when you're in your head, you're in your mind, you're out of your mind. And that's usually when you make the worst choices. But when you tap into your heart and you truly feel it, trust your intuition, the into me I see, the highest form of intimacy. When you go within, you don't go without. That's when you illuminate. That's when you reclaim all of that power within you. Rather than trying to force something that doesn't come natural. My gosh, it's noisy. Lead with your heart. Love that song by the Canadian tenors. Yeah. Exactly. So always check your body language. You know, I always talk about tuck that chin back, keep the ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the heart, over the hips, and keep that heart lifted. Like body language tells it all. So many people don't even realize what they're doing, where their body is being compromised because their mind is running the show. So when your body is out of alignment, it's just showing where your head is trying to hijack that 𝐕𝐞𝐭, the mind virus. You've been infiltrated. And just remember, when you get emotional, that's when you're most irrational. That is when you will make the worst decisions. You need to take a deep breath. You need to move your body. I'm telling you, it's like, I live in an area where this is usually a lot quieter. And I need to remember to show you the new tower that got put up, because one of my neighbors had pointed it out to me the other day, last week. I'm so sorry. I hope the wind is not that bad. I love this. Check this out. We have these signs all along the walking path. Try telling that to the bicyclists. You get people that come up behind you, scare the crap out of you, ding, 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 with their little, it's like, wait a minute here. Last I heard, it's the foot walkers that are supposed to have, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. It's entitlement mindsets. When a lot of people are coming to Florida, and it was happening long before the whole, you know what, it's like, on the one hand, they'll run you over on the walking paths, but when you're driving, they're like Sunday drivers, just like with nothing better to do. And it's like, dude, you need to get out of here. Because the rest of us have been living here, having to deal with people coming from outside. But, all right, I digress. There I go. There are benefits. And there can be nuisances living in the Sunshine State, because everybody who transplants here doesn't always get. Other than this is why most people come here. They don't always get it. So, yes, beautiful evening. So the next reading will be up at 6:30 from the Untethered Soul. And just remember, when you get irrational, it's because you're emotional. You're in your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's the easiest time to infiltrate people. You become easily a target for the perpetrator. And it's because you're not in your right state. You're not in your natural flow. You're not in your power. You've been hijacked and you've been triggered. So the best thing you can do in the moment that you become irrational and emotional is to take a deep breath, breathe into your physical body. See, and that's a car moving too fast, telling the people not to cross in front of them because they don't want to slow down. Always check in with your breath, because the more you become present, the easier it will be to stay on your A game. You know, the 𝐕𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈, the mind virus can't infiltrate you when you're present, because then you're being the present. You are the gift. You are in the now. And they can't hijack someone who's in their awareness. But here's the other thing that I also like to point out. Most people aren't owning their shit, and the reason that the reason they're hijacked is because they're denying it. And like I always say, if you don't own it, it will own you. So if you have, you like certain things in this life. Some of us came here to have these experiences and not to poo-poo on them, everybody's got a judgment. Everybody's gonna say, oh, this is right or this is wrong. And the reality is nothing is right and nothing is wrong, and that is where we've all been hijacked. The judgment of things, your situation, your experiences, is that's part of the 𝐕𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 right there. It's the judging, whether it's of yourself or another. And when you think you're judging another, it's really you're judging yourself, because you're comparing yourself. If you can tap into that and acknowledge your inability to accept, maybe it's envy, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's, whatever. It's all fear-based, because love doesn't judge. Love is allowing and accepting and recognizing that we're not here to judge one another. Judge thee not, lest thee be judged. I'm not a huge fan of scriptures. I really do believe a lot of that's hijacking too. The fact that man created the Bible, created religion, because everybody wants something to believe in. How about you just feel into it and ask yourself, does this resonate? Does this feel true to me? Does this define my being? Or is it hijacking me from being? Judgment is essentially something we do out of fear. Yeah. If I have to do it, who do you think you are? Whoops. Yeah, I just went away. So I have a hard time reading the comments when they start scrolling. So if I don't answer or I don't respond to them, please don't take it personal. But what I was saying is that when we're judging others, we're really judging ourselves. And I did a whole video on that, about how when you judge another, you're ultimately breaking your own heart. And we're all seeking for the right way to be better, not bitter, to create a better world. The best world you'll ever create is the one that you let your heart lead you to, that you trust and you resonate with. People forget that God is in all. And if you can't recognize God in all, you can't see God at all. And I'm not talking God as in the scriptures or religion. I'm talking God as in the source of all that is, that we are the expressions of in this life. God's source is in every little detail. Even the things you don't want to see, even evil you want to claim, it's actually all neutral until you put your projections and labels upon them. Evil is simply the absence of love. And if you watched my video the other day, what I was saying is I really appreciated Aubrey Marcus when he shared his experience in a journey where he saw Jesus and he saw the devil, and he said he thought shit was going to go down, but what did they do? They embraced in a homoerotic love, kissing, orgy-ish, love-making scene. And I was like, that actually makes sense to me. Why? Because they're two halves of the whole and they just recognized each other and they became one. Yeah. And it's always going to be a contrast, and it's just showing you the imbalance in the world, in life, that you can't have one without the other. It's simply showing you where you yourself, because again, remember, life is a mirror, life is a reflection. If you're seeing a lot of evil in the world, go within and see where that resides, because you're only seeing it outside of yourself because of how much is inside. What is illuminated and amplified on your external is what's really needing your attention on the internal. How do I know that? Personal experience, baby. Me having to own the fact that I admit, I'm never going to tell you I don't judge. I am the most judgmental. I'm always comparing myself. I am always trying to do better. So of course I'm judging. I'm seeing where can I improve. The past few weeks, I've actually realized, wow, I guess I'm going through a grieving process once again. Not just because Saturday was Mom's birthday, but because I just left the yoga studio and I'm like, wow, I just changed my life. It's all these little changes, choices that we make that also create the ripples in our lives that we have to grieve the process of a routine that was part of my life. I know good things always come from change. I also have to honor the grieving of that cycle, the grieving of what was a routine in my life. So that was kind of interesting because I went, wow, I guess I've been grieving and I didn't even realize it. It seemed like a simple thing at the time because life really is. I didn't think it was attached to anything. It just was. But boy, was that humbling. I'm like, wow, okay. There you go with bad self. You're human, right? Why? Because it's time for me to do other things in my life. And not that I wasn't doing anything in my life. Yes, it's the essence, and I love that word. The essence of your spirit. I had to listen to my heart and soul. And my heart wasn't feeling like it was in a place that it was being honored or revered or appreciated. So it was time for me to make that change, that shift. And then change can only occur when you're willing to allow it. And I had to follow my heart. Man, that. So life is good. One of the best parts of the evening sunset walks is the afterglow of the sky afterward, when the sun is going down and the sky starts turning. There's the moon overhead, because the blues and the whites turn to lilacs and peaches and pinks. All blessings. Oh yes, and so let me introduce you to the newest tower that when my neighbor asked the guy when he was installing it, she said, "Is that a 5G tower?" And he said, "I can't tell you." Last Wednesday, the monstrosities that they keep erecting in our sky, in our skies, because I mean, when you're in a lower area, it's like, then you look and you're like, one of my other friends and neighbors said to me, he was wondering why he was feeling headaches, and then he recognized it. Because it affects your electromagnetic field. And I'm always feeling something from something anyway, because I'm highly sensitive. But when I first came back from my trip from Europe, boy, did I feel a darkness had descended upon this area. Like, what the hell? Like, what's infiltrating my neighborhood? That's what it felt like. But, you know, people, that's another reason I was also, yeah, there you go. The Bagua mirrors are good too for Feng Shui. We humans need to come back into unity because they don't want you to know about these things, because ultimately we're the ones that have the final say. And over 3 years ago, when they were first trying to force them into neighborhoods, again, there's that word, force, my sister and I were talking about how a lot of cities and towns were signing petitions, and the people were saying we don't want them in our neighborhoods because they knew about the technology not being tested, number one, and they understood the impact, smart meters especially, because a lot of people are getting brain cancers and all sorts of issues. Look at, if you have a smart meter in your home, notice where it's located in the home. It's the same thing with televisions, and it's the same things with refrigerators and things like that. They affect, wherever they are in your home, your magnetic field, your health, your children, and depending on your diet and everything else. But more so than anything else, because I have a personal belief, your breath, your presence, your immune system, all of that's dependent on your mind. Everything originates in the mind. What you reach for food is because you're having a mood. Whether it's a good mood, a bad mood, maybe it's a hungry mood. If you can tap into that and be more present with why you do what you do, you're going to see the patterns. And then you can shift them, because when you know better, you can do better and improve your life. So I was talking to my neighbor earlier about the voting stuff, but also about these towers. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, you can get around the whole paying them a fee because you don't want it, because it's a tacit agreement, and most people don't know this. 3 years ago, when I was going to try to get it from not being on my house, there was a man out of Canada that was saying all you had to do, you write a letter and you say, I'm going to start charging you rent for having this device on my property. So it's a matter of languaging, and people need to be smarter in the way that they approach things, because that's accepting that $15 charge when in reality you don't have to pay them anything, because that's their device to monitor you paying them electric. So if you really want to get down to it, you get them to take that off and you say, you know what, I'm going to be nice, and I'm not going to charge you money to have your device so that you can charge me money to pay you for my electric, which should be free to begin with. But they're tacit agreements, meaning you can change the terms at any time, but most people don't know that. That's what a tacit agreement is. Most of these things that we allow and subscribe to, I mean, who reads the user agreements, right? That's the truth of the matter. Yeah. But it's essentially, it boils down to, because they're government funded, all these towers, they'll say they don't want to let you know because they're afraid that the people, if they knew, would say they don't want them. And that's big money in their pockets from big daddy, big brother. Hey, they don't want to lose their honeypot people. So they'll get as deceptive and aggressive as they want and can until we stand up and say no more. And that's just the truth of that. So here we have Edgewater Drive in Clearwater, Florida. At the height of traffic time, apparently. You know, some days it's nice out here. And some days it's really, really noisy. Crazy. My grandmother used to love that song by Patsy Cline. Crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm not lonely. I'm crazy. Yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's privately put up, but it's called a government contract. And since I worked in that arena back in the day after I get out of the military, I assure you, it's basically buddy system. Government contracts always turn out to be friends of friends. You got to know somebody. Which is funny because if you as an individual go to apply to certain jobs that are government contracts, they will turn around and some of the questions on the application will say, do you have family that works for this particular organization that might put you at a conflict of interest? And I'm thinking to myself, every time I've ever filled those out, I'm like, what are the people that really do have the conflict of interest? Do they just not have to fill that out? They just get hired? Because that's the impression I get. Because I know a whole lot of people in those environments, they're a conflict of interest. Yeah. And it's, again, it's padding pockets. Because that's one of the things that my neighbor was saying. He said, I'm really sad because more and more as time has gone on, he said, it just becomes obvious to me that everybody's out to put, to pad their pockets. I said, yeah, they're all out for the take. Selling out, literally. And so here's my sunset. Isn't that pretty? On that note, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's segment of Lana Takes a Walk and some of my thoughts on this evening rant. If you're enjoying, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Sharing is caring. Yes, life is good. So, and be well wherever you are in the world. Know that you are loved. You are worthy. Tap in and reclaim that power. And don't let the 𝐕𝐤𝒂𝒃 mind virus infiltrate you. Get good with you, and nothing can penetrate you. Have a great, great rest of your day or night. Love you.